Please can I welcome everyone to this meeting of the Council. My name is Councillor Derek Green and I am the Deputy Mayor and will be the chairperson for this meeting. Welcome especially to members of the public who have submitted questions for Council to answer. Firstly, I would like to please read out a message from Madam Mayor, who is unable to join us this evening. I'm truly sorry that I am unable to chair the meeting this evening after testing positive last week, and under the current law and in order to protect officers and members, I have decided to stay at home. I wish to thank Councillor Green for chairing the meeting this evening on my behalf. Please can I advise the meeting of a few housekeeping matters this evening, including those to ensure that COVID-19 protocol are maintained so that this is a safe meeting for all of us. Thank you. Should the fire alarm sound, officers will assist and will direct us to the muster point, which is in Abbey Gardens. Members will be familiar with the location of the toilet facilities in the Guildhall, which are on both the ground floor and the second floor, which can be reached through either exit or entrance doors from the chamber. Regarding our meeting proceedings this evening, members will have noted that there are push-to-talk microphones on the desk in front of you. There is a technician in the room monitoring those audio output, and should there be any issue with your microphone, an officer will assist. Should for any reason you require to use one of the push-talk microphones not allocated to you, please use the wipes to sanitize this if it has previously been used by another member. Please can I remind everyone to indicate in the usual way by standing when wanting to address the meeting. I will call your name when it is your turn to speak. A reminder to everyone present this evening that you are requested to please wear your face mask should you leave your seat at any time, unless of course you have medical reasons, meaning that you are unable to wear one. Members and guests, can everyone please ensure that mobile devices are on silent so that you do not disturb the meeting? Members, we clearly have a large and important agenda this evening, and to assist me with maximising the opportunities for those members who wish to address the meeting, please can I ask that questions, matters raised and in debate, and any point of order are as succinct and to the point as possible. Thank you. Finally, can I advise that this meeting is being audio recorded and live streamed from the website, and then can be found next to the meeting details where the recording will remain thereafter. A video of this meeting will also be recorded and will be loaded to the Council's YouTube channel. The first item of this evening are the minutes of the previous meeting of Council. Members, the meeting of the Council held on the 12th of January 2022, which are set out on pages 8 to 23 of your agenda pack. May I sign these as a correct record? Thank you. The next item is disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures of interest to be made regarding the business before us tonight? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like to declare that I'm a council tenant for the item 6 for the Housing Revenue Account HRA Budget 2022 to 23 CAB 3334. Thank you, Deputy.
Thank you. Councillor Warwick.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to mention that I'm a member of Hampshire County Council and the Cabinet and have a non-prejudicial interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Todd.
Yes, I would like to make the same declaration as Councillor Warwick.
Thank you. Any others, please? Right, and I would like to make a disclosure, if I may, please, that I am a council tenant as well as Councillor Scott, so I have the same. Okay. Thank you. The next agenda items are announcements. Firstly, members will remember that in November, it was announced in the meeting's briefing notes that former Mayor of Winchester, Major Dougie Coville, MBE DCM, had very sadly passed away on the day after his 101st birthday. Mr. Coville was Mayor of Winchester in 1987 to 1988 and was elected to the council in 1984 to 1996 to represent the Alsford ward. Mr. Coville's daughter has advised the Mayor's secretary that arrangements for the service of Thanksgiving to celebrate Mr. Coville's life has now been confirmed and will take place at Tidworth, Allywall Barracks on Wednesday the 27th of April at 12 noon. A reception will follow in the officers' mess. Tidworth is the home of Mr. Coville's regiment, the Royal King's Hussars. Should you wish to attend along with the Mayor, please contact the Mayor's secretary and further information will be provided. Members, I have also been advised that former member of the council, Lord David Chidgey, passed away earlier this week. Lord Chidgey was elected to the council in 1987 to 1991. He represented the New Alsford ward and was former MP for Eastleigh. Please can I now ask that the council stand in silent tribute to their memories. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Councillors. Please can I now announce the next Mayor's Charities events, which, as you know, is the quiz night on Saturday evening and the pie and mash lunch in Abbey House on Sunday the 6th of March, as catered for by Pie Caramba. Yeah, Pie Caramba. Tickets are available from Janet Reid. It's Councillor Reid's wife. Members, the annual Mayor of Winchester's Community Awards was formally launched at the previous meeting and nominations are now closed. I'm pleased to announce that we will return to holding an in-person ceremony to celebrate those organisations and individuals who have given outstanding service to the people of the Winchester district. This will take place at the Holiday Inn at Mornhill on Wednesday, the 16th of March. The Mayor's Secretary is in the process of inviting all the successful nominees. My next announcement is to thank members who are able to support the signing of the refreshed Armed Forces Community Covenant. The commanding officer at Worthy Down is pleased to be hosting the event on Wednesday, the 2nd of March. Leader, do you have any announcements?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I do indeed. Members, back in November, the Royal Town Planning Institute for the South East held their awards ceremony. And I am delighted to announce that our strategic planning team won not one, but 2 awards at that ceremony for their work on the local plan. And we have those awards here with us tonight, and here they are for you to see. The first award was for excellence in plan making, and our team was up against some really stiff competition. But the judges found that our use of technology was inspirational, demonstrating how technology can be used in a really positive way to engage with a range of audiences across different age groups. The strategic planning team used a variety of techniques, including the opportunity to participate in several interactive events rather than the straightforward way of presenting information and asking for feedback. There was praise too for our new local plan website, which they said, and I quote, was designed to be easy to read, visually interesting and appeal to all ages, especially younger people. But the cherry on the cake was winning the overall award for planning excellence. The RTPI made some truly fantastic comments on our submission. And again, I'm quoting, "This represents a real planning success story, demonstrating excellence in local engagement, as well as a real commitment to learning from the exercise. This project leads the way for improved short-term as well as future consultation processes with excellent collaborative working and demonstrates real world adaptability and effective use of new tools such as polls, software and mobile applications." Winning this overall award means that our team will be automatically entered into the national awards for 2022. So I think we all better watch this space. So on behalf of the council, I would heartily like to congratulate the strategic planning team on such an excellent piece of work and an excellent result. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Exec, do you have any announcements, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I have apologies for this evening, members, and apologies have been received from Madam Mayor herself, Councillor Atchwell, and also Councillors Becker, Ferguson, Radcliffe, Weston and McLean. Thank you.
Thank you. The next agenda item is item 4, questions from members of the public. Welcome once again to members of the public who are here this evening and who have submitted questions for the council to answer. I understand that we have received 3 questions for this evening's meeting. All members have copies of the questions received, which have been circulated electronically. Printed copies are available in public seating. Please can I now call upon Lorraine Bailey to ask her question. Miss Bailey, an officer will direct you to the microphone. If you could please indicate where you are sat.
Is there?
Ah. Okay. Right, please can I ask you, please can you ask your question as is written on the order paper, or if you prefer, simply refer members to this. You will have 2 minutes to ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. My question is regarding the Dean car park in Alresford. In 2016, the town benchmarking report for Alresford highlighted the lack of parking as the largest single negative issue about Alresford. In November 2017, the Chamber of Commerce presented key supporting evidence outlining design and layout to Winchester City Council's then Cabinet who were discussing the acquisition of land on the Dean in Alresford for a car park. The 2017 document CAB 3005 promoted a car park design that would be accessible, safe and easy to find, and that careful consideration would be given to the design to improve the neighbouring environment and enhance the setting in a conservation area. However, over 4 years later, a redesign of the proposal from Winchester City Council places the car park with a reduced number of spaces at the rear of a residential area that will not be visible from the main road. This raises a real concern about the lack of visibility and safety for users that could reduce its usefulness, fall short of the park mark standard and make the project unviable. Would the Winchester City Council Cabinet member reconsider their latest proposal for the Dean car park and consult with Alresford residents, the Alresford Chamber of Commerce and the Alresford Town Council on a better proposal? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Todd, please could you respond?
Yes, Mr Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much, Ms Bailey, for your question. In February 2017, so before the Chamber of Commerce presented to Cabinet, after extensive and formal consultation, the master plan for the Dean in Alresford was agreed, including proposals for a car park. This covered a range of design issues, but also gave clear guidance on how parking should be handled in the area, including public car parking. The core master plan diagram, which set out the layout for the area, showed the public car park at the back of the site and not placed on the Dean. Within the master plan principles section of the document, the landscape section made clear that it favoured concealing car parking from the Dean itself. To quote, sites should consider using the natural gradient of the land to conceal car parking within undercroft spaces in order to create an attractive and landscape setting to the Dean. The decision that the car park should go at the back of the site was reinforced in the 2017 Cabinet report you referred to, which stated, and I quote, the developer proposes to develop housing on the part of the site fronting the Dean and has offered the council the opportunity to buy the rear part of the site for the car park. The new developer who now owns the land, Metis Homes, has made a similar offer. But because the City Council does not want a landlocked site, we are proposing to slightly reduce the number of car parking spaces to ensure that the council owns its own access to the highway. The project remains financially viable despite this. Metis Homes have also confirmed that the front of the site is not available for purchase or use as a car park, nor would they consider it consistent with the master plan or sound design principles for the site, just as was the case in 2017. Because we know this is a site of particular interest to local residents and businesses and other local organisations, we have confirmed with the developer that they will hold a public exhibition of the whole scheme once they have a worked up design for the whole site and people can properly see how the car park relates to the proposed buildings and also assess the overall impact on the Dean itself. And this will be before they formally submit any planning application. We can, however, already say that the emerging proposal from the developer for the car park design will have much more visibility from the highway and from residential buildings than both the Albury Park and Perrins car parks, both of which have little or no visibility of car parking from the highway and are not overlooked outside their operating hours. And unlike those two car parks, there will also be a separate pedestrian access through the development with houses facing onto it, safely lit and overlooked throughout. Metis Homes have been actively engaging with the City Council's planning department on the layout and final design, and public exhibition will follow after they have had the opportunity to reflect on that engagement and produce consultation materials that properly explain the scheme and allow people, businesses and other local organisations to make their views known. We have also ensured that the new Alresford Town Council is kept involved and informed of progress throughout. We intend to continue working constructively with the developer, whilst also ensuring the developer engages the public, businesses and other local organisations to ensure that Alresford gets the car park it so urgently needs, with a design that does justice to the master plan and enhances the existing frontages and public realm of the Dean itself.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Ms Bailey, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, please. Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, for allowing me to ask a supplementary question. After the initial work carried out by the developer, which all were consulted on, this proposal isn't what was agreed in principle, and the Alresford community, including the Chamber of Commerce, who represent the business community's interest, haven't been consulted. This plan raises huge concerns about public safety, especially for elderly and vulnerable customers, due to the changed design of the car park. With now a limited option at this stage for change, would Councillor Todd therefore agree there has yet been again another fundamental lack of communication and discussion from this council?
Sorry, Councillor Todd.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I don't think we should be surprised that a new landowner and new developer should develop a new scheme. And we have been clear with them that there will be public consultation on the design, which has not been agreed. It has not been through planning. It has not been formally agreed in any way. Once they have listened to the feedback from our planning department and developed a new design, I would like to set your mind at rest on something. There is no scheme in discussion or proposal where it is not possible to see the car park from the highway. Just as you can see the car park from the highway, you can't see every detail of the car park, but there are two routes into the car park which provide a large amount of visibility on the current state of the proposals, but they are not the final proposals. And when there are final proposals, there will be consultation. We are not intending to give special status to the Chamber of Commerce because there are other bodies in Alresford that are very important and need to be heard as well, such as the Alresford Society and the Town Trust. But there's one group of people that we're particularly keen to hear from and don't want ignored in favour of other groups, and that is the residents of the Dean itself. So our request of the developer who is working up this design, including the design of the car park and the buildings that will face onto the Dean, is that they produce good quality consultation materials which allow people to properly understand the scheme, and that at the earliest possible opportunity, before they submit any planning application, they hold a public engagement session, and so that the people, businesses and organisations of Alresford have the opportunity to make the input they wish to. You may not consider that adequate consultation, but I'm not entirely sure how giving everybody in Alresford a chance to input on a properly worked up scheme, properly thought through, is in any way inferior to what has happened before.
Thank you, Councillor Todd, and to Ms Bailey for your question. Please may I remind you that your question and the answer will be published on the Council's website in due course. Of course, you are very welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Please can you return to your seat? Thank you. Please can I now call upon David Keeling to ask his question. Mr. Keeling, an officer will direct you to the microphone. Yeah, there. Okay. Right. Please can you ask your question as written on the order paper, or if you prefer, simply refer this to members. You will have 2 minutes to ask your question. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Deputy Mayor and councillors. The local plan is due for Regulation 18 consultation in August. The plan set out in December 20 proposed a series of meetings with parish councils. These have not yet happened, nor have parish councils been notified. Parish councils will be unlikely to have sufficient time to consult with their parishioners and contribute to the formation of this local plan. When will parish councils be consulted with?
Councillor Gordon-Smith, would you like to answer, please?
I'd like to thank Mr. Killeen for his question. In December 2020, the council published a local plan which sought to address the considerable uncertainty with housing numbers, and the white paper's proposed reforms to the planning system. These reforms have not been progressed by the government to date, which leaves a certain amount of uncertainty. At the local plan advisory group, LPAG, meeting in September, which was held in public, a favoured strategy for the distribution of housing across the district outside the national park was considered for the local plan. There were further meetings of LPAG in November and December when the officers reported on the representations that had been made and their analysis of these. Alongside this work, the Sheila was approved and noted at a cabinet meeting on the 8th of December 2021. All the sites were included and are publicly available on the website. I'm pleased to confirm that as all of the substantial analysis work in respect for the SIP has now been completed, we are now able to meet with those parishes that will be asked to accommodate new housing. I'm aware that some of these parishes have already started to look at potential development sites in their area using the Sheila. These include Swanmore Parish Council and others such as Colden Common, which are in the process of engaging with local people. I had a meeting in New Alresford with my fellow ward councillors and with a planning specialist, in which we considered some of these Sheila sites in light of developing the neighbourhood plan. I think also it's worth noting that we have published the Sheila in full. A lot of local councils don't actually do this and wait until the Regulation 18 stage when a lot of the decisions are made. But we've published it in full in the interests of transparency. I know that Adrian Fox had a meeting today with the comms on the best way to communicate and to develop in the engagement stage. As soon as I have more information and the programme, I'll be happy to update you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon-Smith. Mr. Killeen, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, I would. Thank you. If parish council are consulted with, and hopefully soon, I still don't have any date or month given to me. And given that the council does not yet have any numbers from Push, they will not be able to consult with parishioners and provide meaningful responses until April, May, or maybe even June. Is this proper consultation by Winchester Council? And will the local plan timetable be reset in order to avoid the plan being found unsound at the Regulation 19 stage? Thank you.
Councillor Gordon-Smith.
Thank you. Well, there's several questions there. The Push numbers are an unknown quantity, and there won't be an agreed joint statement on that until later on in August. Unfortunately, we can't wait on our local plan for that. So there will be agreed a number which will take into account what we think is a reasonable housing demand from Push. As to well, I think that's the main point, but also there's an area of uncertainty in the fact that the statutory method the government uses to calculate housing numbers is also liable to change. It has changed, it's come down. Whether it will go up or down depends on issues which are beyond our control. I hope that is a satisfactory answer for you.
Thank you, Councillor Gordon-Smith, and to Mr. Killeen for your question. Please remind you that your question and answer will be published on the council's website in due course. Of course, you are very welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. Please can you return to your, you've already done it. Third time lucky then. Please can I call upon James Barthow to ask his question. Mr. Barthow, an officer will direct you to the microphone. If you could please indicate where you're sat. No, there he comes. Please can you ask your question as is written on the order paper, or if you prefer, simply refer members to this. You have 2 minutes to ask your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and good evening, councillors. At a Hampshire County Council meeting in November 2021, the Executive Lead Member for Economy, Transport and Environment acknowledged that there have been significant changes that we're going through. The world is changing, and committed to undertake a review of the HCC policy towards 20 mile an hour. Councils and countries are recognising the benefits of a default 20 mile an hour speed limit, not only in reducing deaths, but also from improved public health through reduced noise, pollution, and by encouraging greater use by pedestrians and cyclists. There are cost benefits to the health system from increased public exercise and reduced admissions to A&E. Other counties such as Oxfordshire and Lancashire in England have agreed 20 miles an hour for every settlement, as have counties throughout Wales. Scotland has promised to offer 20 mile an hour widely, and places like Warrington have 20 mile an hour in all their satellite villages. Demonstrating widespread local community support is critical to securing Hampshire County Council's agreement to implement 20 mile an hour widely. Following a presentation at the Winchester Town Forum last month, there was considerable support from representatives for a default 20 mile an hour speed limit. As a campaigner for 20 is plenty for Winchester, I am here this evening calling on the council to agree with me that 20 mile an hour should be adopted across the city where people live, work and play. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Barthow. Councillor Todd, would you like to respond, please?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Barthow, for your question. I have to declare a personal but not prejudicial interest because I'm a member of the County Council's 20 mile an hour review working group. And indeed, I was one of the county councillors directly involved in the previous implementation of 20 mile an hour zones in Winchester in 2013-14. While it would not be appropriate for me to decide council-wide policy on 20 miles an hour in response to a public question, and it is important to remember that highways policy is a county council matter, I am aware that 20 is Plenty for Hampshire campaign not only has the support of Winchester Town Forum, but has also been backed by motions passed at Byton Parish Council, Bishop's Waltham Parish Council, Cheriton Parish Council, Curdridge Parish Council, Hursley Parish Council, Otterbourne Parish Council, Osselbury Parish Council and Twyford Parish Council. This is not just a city issue. It's an issue of real importance to residents right across the district. And in addition, I know that a further 15 parish councils have it on the agenda of their next meeting, and maybe some of those have passed that since I wrote this answer. As you know, or as you may know, Winchester City Council and the Town Forum have been long-term supporters of 20 mile an hour zones in the city itself, implementing 20 mile an hour zones in Highcliffe and Winnell at its own cost in 2013-14, when Hampshire introduced the Stanmore 20 mile an hour zone under its residential pilot 20 mph programme. Similarly, it was the City Council who led implementation of the city centre 20 mile an hour zone after Hampshire County Council received a grant from the government's local sustainable transport fund in 2013. Although 20 mile an hour limits are not explicitly referenced within the current City of Winchester movement strategy, reflecting County Council policy at the time it was agreed, I've asked that any outputs from Hampshire's 20 mile an hour policy review are reflected in future plans. Speaking personally, I would welcome an expression of district-wide support for default 20 mile an hour zones and areas from the City Council, and I'm happy to consult with councillors right across the district to see if such a policy would be supported, not just for the city, but the district as a whole, and can be brought forward.
Thank you, Councillor Todd. Mr. Barthow, would you like to ask a supplementary question?
Yes, Mr. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Todd, for your support, and I look forward to a district-wide policy on 20 mile an hour being brought forward by Winchester City Council. In 2014, the city implemented a 20 mile an hour speed limit in the centre on behalf of Hampshire County Council. Streets in Winnell, Highcliffe and Stanmore were included in a subsequent Hampshire County Council pilot scheme of 20 mile an hour zones. What has Winchester City Council learnt about 20 mile an hour speed limits from these experiences? Thank you.
Councillor Todd.
Well, there's going to be a full evaluation of hopefully all the schemes, including the ones that weren't done by Hampshire, as part of this 20 mile an hour review. But I know the observations from those of us involved at the time, and it was from all parties involved in the Town Forum programme and as county councillors, was that we were frustrated at the limitation of scale that we wanted to put in place. So we were keen that, for example, Southgate Street and St Cross Road had been further included inside the scheme. And we were also concerned about the transitions that we had, because one of the problems with the way that 20 miles an hour zone has been set up has been those periods where it stops and then restarts again. And similarly, inflexibility in adjusting them as we learnt how they might need to be changed or adjusted. I know that, for example, in the work that's been going on for a crossing on Romsey Road near Clifton Terrace, it took about 9 months to get agreement to extend the 20 miles an hour another 20 yards up the road. So I think there are some important learnings, and I think particularly the thing that I've observed and that I've heard from other people is that there's a lot of interest in proper area-wide schemes that are joined up across the city and don't leave the kind of random gaps that we currently have between the different zones, for example, between the city centre zone and the Winnell zone, which just confuse drivers and stop us establishing a kind of coherent norm to say, if you're in a Hampshire settlement, or certainly if you're in Winchester, or if you're one of those of Winchester's towns and villages that wants a 20 mile an hour zone, when you get into that town, that's how fast the traffic is. And there's a norm for that, and we can all not have this muddle of going faster and slower as we go through residential areas.
Thank you, Councillor Todd and Mr. Barthow, for your question. Please may I remind you that your question and the answer will be published on the council's website in due course. Of course, you are very welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, and you've already sat down, so I don't need to read that bit again, do I? Thank you. Right, agenda item 5 is petitions, and we have one petition this evening. Sorry, no, one petition. Please. Councillor Lumby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Deputy Mayor. Madam Mayor, you're looking taller. Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, can I briefly declare a declaration of interest as a county councillor? The usual wording.
Thank you.
Apologies, I only just arrived.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Lumby. Right, I'll start that again. Right, agenda item 5 is petitions, and we have one petition this evening, which is set out in the council agenda and is with regard to the skate park adjacent to the River Park Leisure Centre. The petition organiser is unable to attend this evening's meeting to present, but is pleased that the petition and matters therein are to be debated by the council this evening. I now invite Councillor Lerney to respond to the matters raised by the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I got my first skateboard over 40 years ago, and if I'd been able to access a facility such as River Park rather than ramshackle ramps made out of old pallets, I might have got the hang of turning round at the top rather than having a flying skateboard threatening to decapitate anyone within 10 metres. So I would like to thank the petitioner for bringing this forward, and it's a real shame he can't be here to present it himself this evening. He has highlighted what a great facility we have in River Park. Not only do young people use it from throughout the district and beyond, but there is a real community of skateboarders, BMXs and scooter users who help keep it tidy and encourage beginners to get going. I would like to say that there never has actually been a threat to the skate park facility. The leader and I met with representatives of the skate community this week, along with Professor Lynch from the School of Art, and we had an exciting conversation about the potential of integrating a new facility with the skate park. Both users and the university hold the view that a skate park would be an attractor to potential students and is of benefit rather than detriment to the School of Art, which is on its doorstep. However, reassurance doesn't deal with the substance of the petition, and going to the heart of what we are being asked for this evening, the RPLC land transaction paper is being published tonight in preparation for its consideration by scrutiny, and I am very pleased to report that, having taken account of public feedback, the proposed arrangements with the university now include a provision for the council to take a lease back of the skate park. This will secure the continuation of the skate park under the council's management, and I hope will satisfy the petitioner in terms of how the council proposes to respond to his ask this evening. So with that, Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'll hand it over to council.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Lenny. There is now an opportunity for a general debate before I turn to the Cabinet Member to sum up. We will spend 20 minutes maximum, please. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I did a little bit of research today on when the council opened the skate park, and it was back on the 27th of October 2014 by the then Mayor, Eileen Berry, who, if you looked back on some of the photos, she was in her element, good old Eileen. And I recognise a plaque on the side as you go in through to the skate park is in recognition of City Council by Environmental Trust, lottery funded Sports England, and together with denominations with Headbourne, Worthy and Titchbourne parish councils. And there was a thanks on the placard to all who supported the project. I remember a few of us councillors went to see the young people pre the design going into what we know there today by North Walls. And it was an excellent meeting at the rugby club with the designers, and they were coming out with young people with all sorts of things they wanted to see there. It was skateboard language. I hadn't a clue what they were talking about, but it seemed exciting at the time. So 8 years on, it's a shame that it's hit the sort of South Today news, but the Cabinet Member looked good on telly, and it's a good reassurance that we as a council seem to be standing by a good resource we put in about nearly 8 years ago. I do think also what we also get recognition, but the spin off of that central resource is we also upgraded the Stanwell one, and I believe we also upgraded just shortly after that the Highcliffe skate park. So it just shows a recognition as a council we do listen to young people of the district, and we do put some really good stuff in. How we protect it moving forward is hopefully reassurance that we're going to get tonight. I note that as a member on question 6, Councillor Becker is raised a question on this and gets an answer by the Cabinet Member as well. So hopefully we can reassure the public, especially the young people of the district, that we are well behind their skate park scheme for years to come. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Tipper Cooper, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Just bring my little notes up. So firstly, I should just say that my fellow St Bartholomew's councillor colleagues, Councillor Becker and Councillor Ferguson, have unfortunately both been afflicted by COVID, and so can't be here tonight. And because of the daft whims of Jacob Rees-Mogg and the government's failure to allow councillors remote attendance and participation at public meetings, are unable to speak this evening. But I would certainly like to, and I hope to reflect some of their sentiments in what I'm about to say about this petition. First, I want to also thank Stephen and Louise Cann, who organised this petition, and the campaign that went around it. They have helped shine a spotlight on one of Winchester's very best community assets, as Councillor Ernie has emphasised as well. The petition shows that the skate park serves a community far wider than many realise. It is very intensively used by people of all ages. Indeed, my 5-year-old runs his scooter on the gentle ramps trying to imitate the older children and teenagers. And indeed, there's a growing group of adults, and I'm sure I'll see Councillor Ernie there again soon on the skate park, who are beginning to use it more and more. Parents in Winchester absolutely adore the skate park as a free, accessible space where their children spend countless hours unglued from their mobile phone devices and exercising and socialising in a safe community space. Now, a lot of these voices of these stakeholders, young busy parents, teenagers, children, are maybe not heard as loudly as other groups within our community, but this petition gives thousands of young parents and young people a voice here today, and that should be hugely welcomed. So thank you very much to the petitioners for that. Now, the RPLC site currently consists of a dilapidated leisure centre, an old building accommodating an indoor members bowl club, a piece of a car park and the skate park. And I would strongly contend that about all of these features, the skate park currently provides by some margin the most social value of all of those features. It is a truly fantastic community asset. Councillor Becker, Councillor Ferguson and I are aligned in our position on the skate park. We have been calling since the beginning of all this, since the University of Southampton's plan was announced, for its future to be guaranteed as part of the plan to partner with the University of Southampton. And it should be stressed here, actually, that, as Councillor Ernie did allude to, the intention of both the council and the university has all along been for the skate park to be maintained as part of the plan. And indeed, when we spoke to the ward councillor spoke to the university a couple of weeks ago, and it is very clear that they are committed to making the skate park a key part of their overall civic plan for the RPLC site. In fact, they are downright passionate about it, seeing the perfect connections between the art world and the skating world. However, the petition does very ably call out some of the potential devil in the detail in the original heads of terms. Now, while these provide for the skate park to be maintained, there is, as the petition points out, some risks arising from the language in the lease, or the heads of terms of the lease, that may involve some subjective judgments that may or may not adversely affect the skate park. I am therefore extremely happy to hear Councillor Ernie's response and also see Councillor Thompson's response to Councillor Becker's question. Councillor Becker has been at the forefront of campaigning for the skate park about guaranteeing the skate park's future. Now, the details still need to be assessed, but the lease back of the skate park to Winchester City Council means that the council remains the freehold owner of the skate park, and also through a lease back will presumably have full control of it. So this news therefore demonstrates that the concrete legal partnership between the council and the University of Southampton mirrors and codifies the statements of intent that both parties have made clear that not only is the skate park absolutely safe, it is guaranteed for the future. So this petition calls for the skate park to be saved. St Bart's councillors, we have been calling for the skate park to be saved. You, the Cabinet, have plainly listened to these calls and have listened to this petition, made a significant change to the arrangement with the university. And I'm very, very happy to see that the skate park has indeed been saved. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pearson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I also welcome Councillor Ernie's statement. It was indeed more than welcome. I know from my own village, Swanmore, how popular a skateboard park, albeit a small one, is. People come from miles around to use our skateboard park, so I can fully understand how the petitioner got numbers for Winchester, because of course a very much larger population. It is so sad though, when I welcome that statement, that the university hadn't been a little bit more open as to what they actually intended on the site. And I heard, as most of us have, I think it must be, I don't know, several months ago, there was no intention of getting rid of the park. It might be moved, but not to get rid of it. So the confirmation Councillor Ernie made is very, very welcome indeed. And I support what Councillor Scott and Councillor Becker, ably presented by yourself, sir, had to say about this. But coming back down to, it is so sad that the whole debate has been mixed up by, say, lack of openness of the University of Southampton as to what their intentions were with the site. And I regret to say, a lack of urgency of consultation by ourselves as to what should happen to the land, whether it should be sold, rented or whatever. That really was sad, and it really didn't help our case. I include myself in what the Cabinet is trying to do, because I believe that it is genuine what they're trying to do, although they're going about it in a very, very odd way, as you have discovered from large numbers of members of the public within Winchester. So good news from Councillor Ernie, but a slap on the wrist about your consultation about the intentions, slap on the wrist Southampton University, that being quite clear what the intention of this site is. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. Councillor Edwards, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Well, we've heard from across the room, all around the room, that the skate park at North Walls is hugely popular and the City Council has no intention to close it. It's fantastic news. I'm old enough to remember the skate park, well, it was never called a park, the skateboarding area underneath the South Bank Centre, and the huge battles that were conducted between the great arts on the one hand and the skateboarders on the other. And it was national television for about a year. And of course, the skateboarders won. They're still there. But the culture has changed. And today, skateboarding is a part of our culture and a very valuable part. And the city, coming back to Winchester from the South Bank, the city really needs better and more outdoor recreational provision for its young people, especially after 2 years of pandemic restrictions. So to this end, I think it's worth noting that we are replacing the old skate park at King George V Fields. Hasn't quite been done yet. The new design, moreover, has been developed in close discussion with the actual skate park users, the skateboarders themselves. I have no idea what a good skate park would require, but they obviously do. Their input was essential, and as a result, I can see from the drawings it looks fantastic, and construction begins very soon. This is, of course, part of the wider KGV Park improvement plan and a spacious new two-storey sports pavilion that will be going up this summer. I'd like to emphasise, though, that the skate park at KGV is relatively modest. I calculate it's about 1/3 of the size of the one at North Walls. So to avoid any potential misunderstanding, let's be clear that the replacement at KGV is intended for users in and around Highcliffe. It's a bit of the 15-minute city, if you like, and it in no way lessens the need for a larger skate park near the city centre or our commitment to delivering that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I'm going to take Councillor Kern's comment and then I'm going to close the debate. Councillor Kern.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I welcome this petition also. I think it's fantastic news that a valuable sports facility is going to be saved and protected. I think one thing we've learnt off the back of the last 2 years that our health and fitness is incredibly important.
Obviously on that site as well, there's a bowls club, and I know we've all very much enjoyed playing bowls at the Mayor's Bowls event. So hopefully that also gets a little bit of protection and support as well. But one thing that I hope that Councillor Ernie will clear up shortly is a slight bit of devil in the detail. And I believe that the project was initially funded by the council, by the lottery, and also by the parishes as well. But the devil in the detail and the fact that we're going to be selling off an asset to lease it back, is that going to be beneficial to the community and the council to be selling off the skate park to lease it back? But of course, that's the devil in the detail. But of course, I'm very pleased to hear that we're going to be protecting the skate park.
Thank you, Councillor Kern. I will now close the debate. Councillor Loney, do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I'd like to thank members for their words of support for the proposed change to the heads of terms. I can reassure you that the council will retain full control as a result. I have to say as well that I attended the consultation with young people on the KGV skate park, and the energy in that room was absolutely amazing, and it really did show how strongly they feel about these issues. And I'm really pleased that everybody in this room is supporting the continuation of skateboarding in the centre as well as the expansion elsewhere. So I'd like to thank you for that. I propose that the petition be considered by the next meeting of Cabinet alongside the RPLC land transaction report. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Loney. The matters raised in the petition are referred on to Cabinet, and I thank the petitioner again for raising the issue. Members, the next item of business this evening is agenda item 6, consideration and determination of the recommended minute of Cabinet held on the 17th of February 2022. Mrs. Kirkman, would you please introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Good evening, members. Agenda item 6 is the recommended minute of Cabinet of 17th of February 2022 regarding the Housing Revenue Account Budget 22-23, and this is set out on your agenda and also in the supplementary agenda pack, which includes the draft minute of the Cabinet meeting. The draft minute includes references to matters raised by the Scrutiny Committee, report CAB 3334 refers, and this is included on your agenda pack on pages 25 to 44. The report's recommendations are for Council to approve the 22-23 Housing Revenue Account Budget, including the specifics as set out in the recommended minute and the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirkman. The draft minutes of the Cabinet meeting was circulated with the supplementary agenda after the statutory deadline, and I have decided to accept this onto the agenda because of the urgent need for Council to refer to the draft minutes as part of the deliberation of the matters on the agenda which require decisions at this evening's meeting. Councillor Loney, would you move the recommendation in report CAB 3334 and the recommended minute of Cabinet, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It is always a pleasure to bring the Housing Revenue Account Budget here for Council approval. This is a subject on which we have a strong level of cross-party consensus, and as one of the minority of district councils who still have a significant housing stock, we have the ability to directly make a real difference to the lives of many of our less well-off residents, an ability that occasions such as this give us the chance to celebrate. The budget before Council is based upon a 30-year business plan that is both viable and sustainable over this period of time. The indicative HRA capital programme ensures not only that funds are available to maintain Decent Homes Plus, but that we can deliver the challenging target of 1,000 new low-carbon homes over the next 10 years. It is also proposed to invest an additional £500,000 in revenue repairs and on an improved void specification and the increasing cost of meeting decent home standards. Our void specification is out of date and it is time to review and update it. Not only do we need to look at the work needed to improve the energy efficiency of our homes while they are empty, but issues such as the installation of showers and the state of decoration. I don't want to ask a resident to move into a home that I wouldn't be happy to move into myself. Our principal focus is, however, not on bricks and mortar, but looking after our tenants, current and future. Right now, we are seeing not only the effects of COVID on our tenants' well-being, but a cost of living crisis that will impact heavily on many of them in the coming year. The national formula for raising affordable and social rents is a raise each year by the September Consumer Price Index plus 1% for the period from 2020 to 25. Following consultation with tenants and an examination of the budget by the Scrutiny Committee, rather than the 4.1% increase implied by the formula, we are asking Council to agree a September CPI only increase of 3.1%. This can be managed within the HRA at the current time, but there is a health warning to reducing the rent increase any further in an environment where rents are capped and inflation is forecast to rise further. The 2012 Welfare Reform Act imposed 4 years of real 1% cuts on the housing revenue account, impacting the service levels we were able to offer our tenants, and a similar recurrence would affect the sustainability of the HRA and threaten the building programme. Putting our rents into context, after the proposed increase, tenants in a 3-bedroom house will pay an average social rent of £122 a week and average affordable rent of £199 a week, while the local housing allowance for Winchester, which represents the 30th centile of private rents, so the lower end of the rental market, sits at £253 per week. Rent is not the only charge which impacts our residents. Our policy on service charges is to recover the actual additional revenue costs associated with some homes, for example, those with communal areas. With gas and electricity prices expected to rise by 92% and 52% respectively, and other costs also increasing, to protect residents from very large increases, we propose a capping mechanism so that no one faces an increase in service charges of more than £5 per week. To more directly support tenants in difficulty, in last year's budget, the Council agreed to invest £500,000 in offering additional tenant welfare support. We have recruited and are spending this funding on additional mental health support, tenancy sustainment and personalised support, offering whatever will most help individual tenants, whether that be a school uniform or a taxi licence. This support will carry forward over the next 2 years. It is also proposed that the HRA invest an additional £300,000 in improving and strengthening the capacity and capability of the Council to address the Housing White Paper, the Charter for Social Housing Residents, focused upon improving the capacity of the teams to support the New Homes programme, the Decent Homes team and neighbourhood management. During lockdown, many of our tenants have struggled. Many have been stuck within their own 4 walls, dealing with loneliness and isolation. The importance of good quality open space close to people's homes has been highlighted as never before. Additional neighbourhood services officers will increase opportunities to invest in community development and tenant engagement, supporting our role as a landlord in keeping neighbourhoods clean and safe to live in. The additional property surveyor will ensure the Council continues to provide good quality, decent homes and neighbourhoods, including access to green space and support for well-being. The additional post to support new homes delivery will focus on managing the range of alternative tenures now being delivered through the programme. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank TACT for their input, as well as the housing, asset management and finance teams for all the hard work which makes our council housing something we can all be proud of. The HRA budget in front of you is not only prudent but ambitious, giving the district new council homes, better council homes and improved services for council tenants, current and future. I commend it to council and move the minute. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
You do indeed, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Formally second and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Scott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Cabinet Member. An excellent budget report coming through to members here. Just a couple of sort of things I just wanted to ask your clearance on, really. The service charges on 13.1, page 34. A bit concerned about, we've just sort of undertaken a review about actual cost against estimated costs. If we find that tenants have been paying more than they should do through service charges by estimated costs, we all know that with our gas and electric bills when they're estimated, will we refund the tenants? That's my first question. The other thing I do think that, and now we're coming out of COVID, do you have any plans, Cabinet Member, to do another tenant conference? Because the last couple of tenant conferences have gone really well for the district tenants to come together with services in whatever rooms have been used and so forth like that, and great occasion, opportunity for speeches from the council and housing officers, etc., and good support as well. So have you got any opinions on when a tenant conference will come forward? And the last point I'd make, under the risk on page 30, under the 10 point, note that we have, it starts with the council's own sort of code of decent home standard. I hope sometimes to see if we can, as a council, shift away from the risk, because that's the sort of thing, concrete standard that we would always adhere to. So I'd hope that that becomes a less of a risk and maybe something we could take out of, and we have confidence as a council that we always adhere to our decent home standards, and when we new build, we have that standard as well. Thank you.
Councillor Looney.
Thank you very much, Councillor Scott. My understanding is that the service charges have already been adjusted. I'll go back to the officers and confirm the details of that and get back to you. Looking at tenant conferences, like Councillor Scott, I'm very supportive of them, not only as opportunities for tenants to get together and meet each other, but also for the council to hear from a much wider range of tenants than we normally do. While we've had a lot of success actually with our electronic consultations with tenants, I think it is time that we started meeting in rooms again. We will, however, have to consult tact on that and see how tenants, particularly our older tenants, actually feel about that. My feeling is that they are raring to go. So I certainly hope to get back to you around what we'll be doing around that, and also around other opportunities for tenants to get together, particularly thinking about potential outdoor events for tenants, which obviously avoids some of the issues around COVID concerns, and other nice to haves that we can do. Part of the point of expanding the neighbourhood services team is to give us more opportunity to carry out events of whatever description. With regard to decent home standards, the good thing about retaining it as a risk is that it makes sure that everybody remembers that the decent home standard is still there, that however well we're maintaining our homes, that we're always conscious of that there is that baseline which we should never fall below on any of our 5,100 properties. So it remains important and rightly prominent, I think, as a risk going into the future, particularly when we're talking about a 30-year business plan rather than the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Power.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I would like to ask one question. I'm going to be supporting this budget, obviously. Our tenants are very well looked after. What scope is there, however, to ensure registered providers treat their tenants as well as our tenants are treated?
I'm pleased to say that the new Charter for Social Housing Tenants does cover housing associations as well. I'm not sure what teeth are actually attached to that, but that's certainly something that we'll want to look at. I have to say that some of our housing associations do offer excellent services for their tenants. Indeed, some of them offer support schemes that we're actually looking at as models, but unfortunately that is not universally the case, and we're all aware of some housing associations who offer very much substandard service. As I say, we need to have a look at the Charter for Social Housing, point tenants of those associations in that direction, and where we can assist them if necessary in taking up the issues that are raised.
Thank you. Councillor Curran, please.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Mayor. And first of all, I very much welcome the increase to the Plan Reactive Repairs Fund, something which is much needed, of course, to make sure our properties that the members of our community live in are up to scratch. During the floods last year, we had many properties in my ward, especially in Claylands Road, severely affected. Many went days without that support, and repairs have taken a long time. Although I must thank the officers and their efforts in the aftermath, and those from the estates team who did do some fantastic flood prevention work on Sycamore Close. Obviously appreciate as well, when it comes to flood damage, there needs to be a joined up approach with Southern Water and Hampshire to prevent further damage. But we do have a responsibility to our tenants and can't allow them to be left in homes that are in need of urgent attention after such incidents when sewage leaks back into their homes. I've also heard from another rural resident who gets a mould problem in the autumn and winter, and they've been told there's not much that can be done because it's all to do with the land that the property is built upon. In 2022, it's obviously not right that we have to have people live in a property like that we own, and we have a large percentage of our properties in rural communities which are dated and need some work. I appreciate we don't have the funds to fix everything, but can I ask this evening that the portfolio holder will ensure and reassure rural tenants they will also get access to those much needed repairs and support from this additional funding?
Councillor Loney.
Thank you. All tenants across the district will receive equal support. Obviously, council is not the right place to take up individual issues, and I'm very happy if Councillor Kern would like to raise those with me separately. I'm also pleased to say that in Claylands, while the County Council has been shrugging its shoulders, shall we say, on the issue, we're actually looking at a potential estate improvement programme which will not only provide flood prevention but also provide new wildflower areas, you know, and potentially go from just having a piece of grass in front of people's properties to something that's a very attractive area. This is a change of tack for the estates improvement from where we've been in the past, but certainly where we can tag it onto something as important as flood prevention, then we're really keen to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Horrell, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor, for allowing me to ask a question. And we've had a great deal of opportunity to ask questions on this budget, so thank you for that. Can I ask, though, the portfolio holder why there is no indication of spending for the homeless in the HRA budget tonight or in the general fund budget, when I thought we all agreed that we should support the homeless and it's a key deliverable for the council? I know that there's a paper coming to policy next week, but when will that budget for this very important piece of work be approved if it's not processed at the budget setting tonight? And how much are we intending to invest in this very important area of our work in 22-23? Thank you.
Councillor Loney.
Thank you. In the interests of cross-party consensus on this issue, I am pleased to say that this is an area where we have received very generous amounts of government funding, which is one of the reasons why we've needed to pull it all together and bring it back to business and housing. I think officers would have to confirm about how that's dealt with through the normal budget. We don't deal with homelessness through the HRA budget because the cost of homelessness should fall upon us all equally across the district, not just on those tenants that live in our council homes. What we do within the HRA is look at how we can use what we do have effectively at no cost to the tenant to support our work in homelessness. So, for example, we have been using more properties for temporary accommodation than we have previously. This is a very cost effective for both the taxpayer and for the council. So that is an area where the HRA is supporting the work but not paying for it, which is why it doesn't really come shining through the budget. But this is an area of high priority to the council. We've had a lot of success, both in the past couple of years through COVID and previously when Councillor Horrell was in charge of the housing portfolio. We are a gold standard authority in this area, and we work very well with the voluntary sector. I think all of Councillor Horrell's questions about this will be answered at Business and Housing, and I believe that will then follow through into a cabinet decision.
Thank you, Councillor Loney. Councillor Gemmell, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Mayor. It's just an item in here on 15.2, just where you're saying that you're looking for the pipeline for identifying the council housing to be brought forward and the sites, small sites. Can you give us some indication, because I haven't heard for some time of any new sites coming forward, just whereabouts you're looking and what size sites you are looking at? Thank you.
Councillor Loney.
Thank you. We are looking at a variety of sites. We are prioritising working through the sites we already had in the programme, rather than taking on too many, in particular too many of the smaller sites which aren't necessarily going to produce as much affordable housing as we might do elsewhere. We do find that rural sites take a lot longer to bring forward than some of the larger sites, so we do need to be able to put in more effort and can carry out fewer of those effectively as we go forward. There is a list available, I don't want to talk through it off the top of my head, but we certainly have sites, for example, at Mitcheldever, which has got planning permission for 6 homes at the moment, and we're also looking at another number of other smaller sites. Most of the smaller sites have either been built on already that were in the council ownership, or are very opportunistic when they come forward. So we are looking at that. I think it's also important to say that this is an area where we're not working on our own. There are many excellent rural housing associations that are working in this area, and we certainly encourage them to promote rural exception sites, particularly because often landowners find them easier to work with than necessarily the council. There is a full list available, and I'm very happy to forward it on to Councillor Gemmell if she would like us to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Loney. I have no other questions. Well, nobody here wants to ask a question, so I'm going to move into debate, please. Councillor Scott. Oh. Sorry, carry on then, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's easy to miss people, especially when we can't get my feet properly, but thank you very much for the opportunity. I also welcome this report. Housing revenue reports always make welcome reading, and congratulations to the housing team from top to bottom for their quite clear, excellent efforts, and congratulations to the Cabinet finding a little bit more to go into this count. The one figure I'm looking at in particular is in, I think, bullet point 3, the 9.289 million for maintenance, improvement and renewal programmes. This, for many of our houses which were built in the late 1950s and 1960s, is of course a priority programme. Whether we're talking about Winchester or whether we're talking about the market towns or we're talking about the villages, the villages often get forgotten. Some of the council houses or bungalows in Wickham, for example, or my own village, Swanmore, or in Droxford, are, to say the least, a little tired when it comes to carbon saving. It's expensive upgrading, it always is. From this point of view, I look at the council houses being built now that were started during the Conservative years, that programme. The council houses that I see I've been into are absolutely superb standard. In comparison to what has been put in place for the housing associations by developers, they're streets ahead. And so congratulations to the team for getting that through. A couple of phrases, though, that I might pick up from Councillor Lerney made. Yes, we have to look when we're upgrading these houses about improving the heating, improving insulation, increasing draft proofing, things like that, changing the windows to double glazing, and we've had an excellent programme in doing that. In some cases, perhaps triple glazing. Yes, we should be thinking.
Do we have a question somewhere?
Yes, I have actually.
Thank you.
The question that I was just getting to, thank you very much for the prompt, is about the phrase you made, Councillor Lerney, about upgrade of verges and empty spaces and access to open spaces. The Green Agenda is a great deal more than just access to open spaces, even though the open space team has done an excellent job in improving play areas. So can you say a little bit more about that and what you mean by upgrading of verges and empty spaces? One of the council estate in my own village has got blank spaces. They, as far as biodiversity is concerned, they're just deserts, the grass, which you can't play football on. What on earth is an empty space you can't play football on? I mean, it's a joke. So perhaps you could say a little bit more what you mean about that. It's going to be a relatively small amount of the total you quoted here, but please, carbon emergency, expand it a bit, please. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Pearson. We are prioritising homes which have very poor energy efficiency for work currently, and we're assessing a pilot scheme at Bramdean where we've done considerable work on a couple of homes out there, looking at the costs and benefits of having done that. So we are focusing on the carbon agenda, and we mentioned also the void standards, where we're also looking at doing that. Some of the measures that we need to take to make homes more energy efficient are quite intrusive with tenants in situ, and sometimes they do things like make rooms smaller, which if somebody has existing furniture can make life rather difficult for them. So we're doing a lot of work on that. In terms of the verges and open spaces, we are pivoting the estates improvement programme to look more in that direction. I'm pleased to say that we've recently recruited to post in that area and really hope to accelerate not only completing previous estate improvement projects, but achieving some really good new things with regard to that biodiversity, making our estates more secure, making areas more attractive, and just making them better places for our tenants to live.
Thank you, Councillor Lerney. Right, we're going into debate now. Councillor Scott, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Really welcome my support for this budget coming forward. As we come out of COVID, I'd like to thank the officers of the City Council for all their support for the tenants and the residents of the Winchester district. I take satisfaction on some of the comments Cabinet Member made on the welfare support that you're putting in, because there has been a tricky time for some of our tenants residents in the district, and we know that cost of living is going up and so forth like that. So that's a really good welcome, that we recognise that as a council moving forward, that we need to put that welfare support in to certain tenants, knowing that our tenants are proud and how it's got to be done sensitively, but I know what we will do with our officers are excellent. New homes, come and see the Valley, members. The last homes that's just been built, 77 in the Valley, come and see it. That's a City Council housing scheme, which we should be really proud of. So I welcome, and I'm sure Councillor Green would welcome you to our ward to go and have a look at the homes in the Valley. Well done, New Homes Delivery. I'm very proud that you've come with a positiveness on decent home standard, can't remember, because never a week goes by when I have struggles with a resident provider tenants who really tries to get their landlords to do things on the maintenance side. And we as a council, as landlords, we should be very proud that we do look after our homes to a high level, and our property services should be praised as well. So Andrew Kingston's team, well done for looking after our homes and our properties well. I really look forward to seeing the impact of the estate improvements with the new officer or officers coming to post. Please liaise with members, because it's always better if the estate improvements is done with member recognition and liaison on the planning stage to fruition. And I'd also say and concur that with the development, community development side of the neighbour services, again, engage with ward members, because some of us know our wards and our communities really well. Again, get the officers to please engage with members at the planning stage and the projects and event stages as well, because we can support and help them. But I just want to commend again my support for the housing team. What an excellent department of the council. I know I'm biased because I work a lot with the housing department, and I know we've got phenomenal other departments of the council, but what a housing team. Brilliant. Well done. So we should be proud of ourselves.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rutter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Yes, I'd like to welcome this report and wholeheartedly support it. I would like to also congratulate the New Homes team and welcome the 35 new mixed development rural exception site that we have at Burnett Lane off Hookpit Farm in Kingsworthy. These are very welcome new homes for our local community. It also brings several acres of new public open space, ecological mitigation areas and surface footpaths for people to walk around, and a kickabout area for local children. I'd like to just encourage the council to look at reinforcing the sustainability of this site by working with officers. We will look forward to working closely with officers to continue to develop the existing footpath back to the heart of the village on Wesley Road, which avoids having to take the car all the way past the busy Tesco Express junction onto Springvale Road, but actually goes over the old railway line and ends up by the old by the Scout Hut. And we want to see that developed into an all-weather route for non-motorised vehicles, for pushchairs, bikes and motability scooters, so that people have easy walking and cycling access to the heart of the village. But I would like to say thank you very much to the New Homes team for that new development, which I know all the new residents very much appreciate, and the whole community is enjoying the new public open space. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Horrell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and may I too thank the housing team for their efforts and bringing, this comprehensive budget forward. Housing is a key element of the council's work across the district, and we should be duly proud of what we do. I know many other authorities envy the fact that we have our own stock and wish they'd kept theirs too. We had a very good opportunity to ask questions about this paper and discuss the HRA budget in detail at the Scrutiny Committee. Councillor Lerney will know I asked many of the questions. And TACT have also been involved. And as a consequence, we have a paper tonight that broadly we can all support, which is a great outcome. And I just hope that that great example we can all learn from, because that involvement with residents, discussions amongst everyone and sharing with your fellow councillors can bring that very good outcome, unlike some of the other projects that I know we're dealing with. Talking and sharing is a good route forward. We welcome the decision to only increase rents by 3.1%. as recommended by TACT and the Scrutiny Committee, and to cap service charges. In the current climate, I think that's a really important step that we've taken. It is clear that there must be a tenant and member discussion as soon as possible about the new approach to increasing the void turnaround, which has slipped over the last year, and what the specification should be. And I welcome your comments earlier, Councillor Lerney. I wholeheartedly support the continued house building programme, and I'm reassured by the commitment that the new home staff recruitment is progressing at a pace. Without a focus on this area, we know build programmes slip. I also thank TACT for their continued support for this programme. Without our tenant support, we could not build at the same scale. The Housing White Paper is a real opportunity for us. The Charter for Social Housing Residents will be an important piece of work in the next year, and I welcome the budget allocated to ensure we can deliver on the new requirements. It is really good to see the long-term HRA budget continuing to be in good shape and to continue to meet decent home standards, as Councillor Scott has already commented on. Mr Deputy Mayor, I hope Council tonight can rally behind the HRA budget and show the Council's continued commitment to housing, both social and affordable, in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howell. Councillor Clear, please.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Well, I was born, raised in a council house in Eastleigh, which was lovely. I know I moved out when I got married, but it was lovely. They were slightly different than they are now, but I've always loved council houses. This is a good comprehensive budget, and I welcome, like so many of us, I'm sure, the recommendation to limit the rent increase to 3.1%, and I fully support the continued commitment to the new homes programme. We are here to support our tenants, so applying the service charge cap alongside the rent reduction next year will bring, I am sure, much financial relief to our tenants, especially those on low incomes who need it most and who will be hit the hardest due to substantial rising costs. 2 additional neighbourhood service officers will greatly add to tenant engagement. We need to support our tenants in providing good quality, decent homes, and it is essential that there is access always to green space, which in turn supports well-being. I would also like to thank TACT for their support. So, Councillor Lerney, may I thank you and the housing team for all their hard work in bringing this paper forward, and thank all members tonight, because it's obvious that there is a good cross-party. We're all for this tonight. Well, I hope we are. I think we are. So thank you, Councillor Lerney, and I wholeheartedly support the paper.
Thank you, Councillor Clear. I have no other names on my. Oh, sorry, I do. Yeah, Councillor Williams.
Okay, yes, the HRH paper, sorry, HRA paper even, shows a balanced and carefully thought out budget whilst delivering a service to our tenants that looks after their housing needs and ensures that in a time of increasing costs and rising costs of living, that we are able to take care of the most vulnerable and provide high quality homes. It sets out a comprehensive maintenance plan that fits in with the Council's plan for Homes for All and the climate emergency. Continuing to spend on retrofitting and carbon reduction measures. We are making our homes better and more efficient whilst building new high-spec homes for the future. The Council is making adaptations that will reduce our carbon impact and mitigations to protect our tenants against climate change. I feel this is a strong paper that sets out the plan for looking after our tenants and the district for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Right, I have no more names on my list. So, Councillor Thompson, would you like to?
Thank you, Mr Deputy Mayor. Members, this has been a really interesting and wide-ranging debate with lots of interesting questions, too. And I'm really pleased that once again the HRA budget receives wholehearted support across the chamber, which of course is very welcome. We all want the very best for our tenants, and our collective continued priority of providing low-cost housing for rent to those in most need demonstrates the clear commitment of this council to make sure that those that need help are able to get it. This is a comprehensive budget and sets out clearly the investment we will be providing, not only to improve our properties for our tenants, making sure they remain safe and up to date with the latest safety measures, but also providing help and advice to our tenants during these most difficult of times. The extra funding that this budget proposes in order to strengthen our capacity to support our tenants and invest in community development and engagement and ensure that our homes are clean and safe to live in is incredibly important. We all know that this year will be tough for many families, and I'm pleased that this year we will be implementing a lower rent rise than that recommended by the government. Of course, any rent reduction comes at a cost to our new build and maintenance programme, but this year in particular, with the rising cost of living, our tenants will need all the help we can offer. So I'm really pleased, and I know lots of you have made reference to this, that in addition to the lower than expected rents, we will be placing a cap on service charges, which I know will be very welcome. The rising cost of fuel makes it even more important to begin to provide as many of our tenants as we can with energy saving devices and alternative forms of heating wherever possible. Fuel poverty has always been an issue for our most vulnerable tenants, and it's likely to increase over the year. I believe very strongly that our tenants should not have to choose between heating or eating. So I really welcome the commitment to create greater capacity for additional investment in this area in future years. It not only has the potential to help our tenants, which of course is the primary of primary importance with their fuel bills, but also meets our commitment to the climate emergency. And linked to this, I also welcome the increased budget provision for planned and reactive repairs. We know that the cost of materials and labour are still rising steeply, and we need to be able to cope with these increased costs and pressures in the year ahead. I think it is also important that we are improving our void property standards. We should be making every effort to ensure that our properties are attractive to prospective tenants, but clearly those properties shouldn't be left any longer than empty any longer than they need to be. But there is obviously a fine line and a fine balance between the length of time it takes to turn around a void, and of course, when they are empty, it makes absolute sense to make improvements to them, as well as taking the opportunity to fit energy saving measures where appropriate. So in closing, I really welcome this budget, and I also welcome the cross-party support that it has received tonight. And I too would like to take this opportunity to place on record my thanks to Councillor Lerney as the Cabinet member responsible for this area, and also to all our officers and staff in the housing team for the work that has gone into this budget in what has been another challenging year. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Loney, would you like to sum up, or do you wish to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think it's all been said. I'd just like to thank members for their kind words, both for me and even more so for the housing team.
Thank you. Please can I now put to the vote the recommended minute of Cabinet on page 3 of the agenda pack. Please can I see a show of hands in favour?
Any against? Any against?
Are there any against?
Any abstentions?
Any abstentions? No. Carried. Right, thank you. The recommended minute is agreed. Right. We will now take a 10-minute comfort break. Okay. Yeah, can you please be back by 5 to 9? Thank you. The next item of business this evening is agenda item number 7, consideration and determination of the recommended minute of Cabinet held on the 17th of February 2022. Mrs. Kirkman, would you please introduce?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Agenda item 7 is the recommended minute of Cabinet of 17th of February 2022 regarding the General Fund Budget 22-23, and this is set out on your agenda and also in the supplementary agenda pack, which includes the draft minute of the Cabinet meeting. The draft minute includes references to matters raised by the Scrutiny Committee and also correction in your supplementary agenda on page 9 of a minor inaccuracy in the report. Report CAB 3335 refers, and this is included in your agenda pack on pages 45 to 77. The report's recommendations are for Council to agree the level of General Fund budget for 22-23, including the specifics are set out in the recommended minute and the report. Please note that Council is required to also consider the Council Tax Resolution for 22-23, which is on pages 79 to 85 of your agenda pack. Members are reminded that a recorded vote will be required on any amendments on the substantive motion relating to the approval of the budget and the setting of council tax. Please can I also advise that we will firstly take recommendations 4 through to 8 of the recommended minute of Cabinet, and following those recommendations 9, 10 and 11. And finally, consideration of the council tax setting will also then be a separate resolution of council, meaning that there are 3 recorded votes required. Members, please can I further correct a typographical error on page 5 of the agenda. Reference here to the passing of a resolution setting for council tax should read for the year commencing 2022. The agenda incorrectly says for the year commencing 2021. Apologies for this error. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Kirkman. The draft minute of the Cabinet meeting was circulated with a supplementary agenda after the statutory deadline, and I have decided to accept this onto the agenda because of the urgent need for Council to refer to the draft minutes as part of deliberation of the matters on the agenda which require decisions at this evening's meeting. Excuse me. Councillor Cutler, would you move the recommendation in report CAB 3335 and the recommended minute of Cabinet, please?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I think it would be an understatement to say that financially the last 2 years have been exceedingly challenging. When I introduced our first budget in 2020, our overriding priority was to stabilise the budget and reduce the looming deficits left to us by the former administration. Little did we realise that by September we would be needing an emergency budget as a £10 million hole appeared as a result of the pandemic and the collapse of income. Government funding covered nearly half of this deficit, but we still had to make hard choices to save over £5 million. This time last year, we were in the midst of the second major wave of infection and the vaccine rollout was in its early stages. It was still very, very difficult to predict when or whether income would return to previous levels. So this year, I'm pleased to be able to say that because of the tough but realistic decisions taken to find savings of over £3 million last year, we find ourselves in a stronger position than we expected, with income down by 14% rather than the 20% forecast in last year's budget. When we produced our budget option paper in October, we had signs of that better than expected performance, particularly with the performance of the leisure centre, which allowed us to allocate a further 200,000 to core services which were under extreme pressure, as well as further funds to major project delivery. But at that time, we were still forecasting that other income was on track for the 20% deficit of the original 20% reduction shown in the original budget last year. But despite the emergence of the Omicron variant, income picked up significantly over the Christmas period, resulting in our current forecast outturn with only a 14% fall in our income. This leaves a significant surplus that will be used to reinstate the allocations to both the asset management and parking reserve that was suspended at our emergency budget. It also allows us to make an allocation of £200,000 to the grants reserve, which more than replaces the reductions in grant funding approved in the 2021 budget and gives us flexibility to award further funds to our core grant partners, should this be necessary as the cost of living crisis develops. The remaining surplus will help replenish our major investment reserve, which is very important since we're aware that significant funding will be required to deal with, among other things, major planning enforcement cases this year. Again, when we produced our budget options in October, we were fully expecting government to announce a 3-year spending settlement at the budget in November, which it was signalled would end new homes bonus payments immediately and reset business rates retention from 23-24. In the event, government decided that it once again would roll over the current arrangements for 1 year, resulting in an unexpected extra £1.3 million in new homes bonus. All the indications are that government will implement the planned ending of new homes bonus and reduce business rate retention in a 3-year arrangement from next year, and this is built into the medium-term financial strategy projection. Because of that, we must regard the additional 1.3 million as a one-off payment and not included in core budgets. We propose that these funds are spent bringing forward funding for key areas of our council plan priorities. Firstly, we propose £100,000 to continue funding our council tax hardship fund for a further year. This fund was set up last year to both supplement our generous council tax reduction scheme and as a safety net for those that demonstrate hardship but are unable to qualify for council tax reduction. After the unanimous support for Councillor Cooper's motion for support for the principles of city sanctuary, we will allocate £25,000 to promote this work. On climate change, we intend to allocate £250,000 for work to develop the infrastructure and allow the trialling of electric waste freighters and park and ride buses. £150,000 for work to facilitate early introduction of food waste collection, and £40,000 to encourage walking and cycling, particularly focusing on secure bike parking and storage. We know that our many historic assets require £1 million in repair and maintenance over the next 5 years. In this Jubilee year, we propose to bring forward £450,000 worth of that work to rejuvenate some of our most treasured city landmarks.